Welcome back to The Breakdown. I am Dela, and this is The Breakdown Show. As you know, we've been working on preparing for, gearing up for the incarceration party for Tiffany Henyard and them. And I came across an article this morning. I'm working on obtaining the documents that contain the complaint against the village of Dolton and the township of Thornton and Mayor Tiffany Henyard. And as I was working on getting those documents, I came across this article. I have not read it yet, so I'd like to read it with you. It is tagged under corruption on abc7chicago.com. There are a couple stories right now with this same information. This is just the one I happened to click on first. I believe there's only two stories within the last 15 hours or so. Now, the title of this story is 3 former employees sue Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard for wrongful firing amid corruption accusations. I kind of felt like this was coming. Somebody mentioned it in my comments yesterday. Thank you so much for that, that there was a lawsuit filed. And I'm glad. That's what it takes. This is what it takes. And along with the wrongful firing lawsuit goes an EEOC complaint as well. So the EEOC becomes very aware as well that these things are happening. So even if the lawsuit is lost, which isn't very likely, even if these 3 people who we'll learn about in just a minute lose their lawsuit, it is on file with the EEOC, which is a federal agency, that these things have happened, that the things that they say happened. And 3 all at once is a lot to put on your track record. So anyway, let's take a look at this article together. I will add my commentary where necessary. This article is by, I gotta make this bigger because I'm 43. Maher Kawash and ABC7 Chicago digital team. It was published yesterday, Thursday, March 14th at 3:51 p.m. in the year of me 2024. So let's start with the video. I love it when there's a video. Oh, there's an ad, of course. And the caption on the video
that these are wrongful terminations.
Sorry, let me start over. I didn't know it was muted. I thought it was just for me.
3 former village employees are now taking legal action against Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard for what they described as a toxic work environment that eventually led to their wrongful terminations.
So I take issue, and I put a video about this about 2 or 3 years ago. I put a really quick video out about the difference between the word toxic and the word abusive. I believe the word toxic is trending, but it's not accurate. These people are abusive. They are not just toxic. A can of waste is toxic. If you encounter that can of waste, it will hurt you. But these people are abusive. They go about seeking to destroy, seeking to hurt people. They are the variable, not the person. When you're dealing with something that's toxic, you are the variable. When you're dealing with something that's abusive, they are the variable. And I think we need to get back to using the old-fashioned word abusive, because that's what these people are.
The way she treated me and other people was wrong.
Sabisha Williams is one of 3 former village employees suing Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard and the village of Dolton.
These 3 cases are all based around the same premise, that these are wrongful terminations at the hands of Mayor Henyard and her administrations.
All three of the former employees say they were fired at some point near the end of 2022. Williams says the workplace environment worsened about a year before that, starting with the mayor asking her to do things that she says were unethical.
Withhold building permits, business licenses to people that didn't donate to her campaign or just people she didn't like in general.
Williams says she continued to raise concerns about that with the mayor, but she was later moved to the water department before eventually being fired.
I was the only person at that time that knew how to process business licenses, but they moved me to the water department anyway.
Another complaint in a lawsuit on behalf of former Public Works Department employee Karen Johnson claims that she was intentionally treated differently from other similarly situated employees and that there was no rational basis for the difference in treatment. The lawsuit also states Henyard restricted certain village and or township employees' access to village and or township buildings. It's all part of a lengthy list of accusations against Mayor Henyard, which also allegedly included a tarnished relationship with her village trustees.
We did a mock trial to practice muting the trustees because she didn't want the trustees to have a voice. In her words, she was at...
I don't want you to miss what she just said. They did mock trials before the meetings, okay? And it has been spoken of before. And when I say that the people, the village managers are prepped, the department heads are prepped, I'm not just saying she tells them what to say. I'm saying they have an entire fake meeting before the meeting where the village managers practice their attack on the trustees. They practice their hail of the mayor. They practice. They have an actual paid time where the managers are on payroll and meet to practice how to behave and conduct themselves and speak in a way that edifies Tiffany Henyard during the board meetings. Why do you think she won't have a cow meeting? Because the village managers aren't there. It's just her and the trustees and the administrator and the finance director. So she doesn't have anybody there to support her, speak for her, edify her, laud her, hail her, heil her. I hope you didn't miss that. This woman said they have actual mock meetings. Yes, they are prepped. Lacey, you are prepped. Kim, you are prepped. Pete McCain, you are prepped. William Moore, you are prepped. Stacey Carell, you are prepped. The lady in housing who's smart enough to keep her name out the media, you are prepped. Janice Johnson, you are prepped. Tangenique Miller, you are prepped. Keith Freeman, you are prepped. Tiffany Henyard, you are prepped. And I guarantee you they have police officers in their mock meetings to play out different scenarios. What do you do if somebody yells out this? What do you do if this action takes place? I'm really hoping somebody galvanizes the people of Dolton to take action during their board meetings. In cities I've lived in, as citizens, our board meetings were not for spectators. We took action during our board meetings, and they were on their toes because when our group came in, they knew we were going to legally take action during that meeting, get their attention to know that we were there and we weren't going to stand for the bullshit. We weren't disruptive and we didn't operate illegally. But those who remember my actions know a lot can be said with no words whatsoever. So I hope the people of Dolton, I'm hoping, I'm yelling out maybe to Dr. Nikita Cloud or someone else who understands activism to galvanize the people to take action during the board meetings. That way they're not at the behest of the police officers. And that way it doesn't matter what Tiffany Henyard has mocked or prepared for. See, when I was in high school, I was a part of a forensic club and we did mock trials. That's something you do when you're in politics. You become familiar with the atmosphere, the landscape, the terrain of a political environment. So you have mock trials. But that's not something that, as the housing director or the water director or the public works manager, superintendent, the public works superintendent, or the person who's over code enforcement, or even the police chief or fire chief should be a part of. Those mock trials are for politicians. Tiffany Henyard, maybe during that mock trial, you should practice enunciation. Enunciation. I think I spelled it right. Bicth, in that order. But we done caught you misspelling some words too, Tiffany. But enunciation. I think who on your team could help you with this word? Let me think. I'm going to direct you to William Moore. He's probably the most well-read. The way he uses his hands when he talks, I can tell he's bisexual. So he probably reads a lot. Okay, he loves literature. And, oh yeah, your engineer, your village engineer who dresses really well. He wears the same suit a lot, but that's usually what you do when you have money and you know how to maintain it. Hint, hint. I think you should connect with those two, because I think they understand diction, and I think they understand how to help you enunciate. They seem to be well-traveled and well-spoken. So during your mock trials, Tiffany, it would be a good idea for you to practice the words that you plan to say. Like summa cum laude. Like ask. Like answer. Like February. Okay, I'm just going to give you a couple words. I usually only start with a few. And then as we progress, you get better. I do this too. I teach enunciation and diction as well. But I think during your mock trials, it would be a good idea for you to take that time, not just to boost your own ego by listening to your village managers kiss your not so impressive ass, but also to practice your speeches. Like, you know how you have to read with your finger on the paper to follow the words on your vetoes? This would be a good time for you to practice what you're reading so you don't look like a third grader. Practice your signature because you write like a second grader. And maybe you should, during that time, have Stan Brown come in and practice how to read numbers. Start with 1, 2, 3, okay? We're working on tens places in the first grade, okay? So maybe as you help him and you guys work together, maybe when he gets William Moore in and the guy from Ron from the village engineer, I pray he finds a better role because he seems like a really good guy. And I hope you're not making him do fraudulent stuff with those CBG grant applications, since you don't currently have any audits on the city to attach to the application, but that application is due at the end of this month. So how's he going to apply for the CBG grant for $400,000 without an audit? Hopefully you're not making him do some crazy shit. So anyway, once you get all these people in the room, you guys should practice how to speak, not just how to attack, not just how to lie. What she just said was very, very poignant. Mock trials before a meeting, and you say they're not prepped.
War with the trustees.
One of the former employees is hoping to get her job back from this lawsuit, while the other two are just hoping to move forward, as they say this has caused emotional and financial damages.
Honey, why would you want your job back? That is a hostile environment. You're going to have to sue her again. Why would you want to go back someplace that is that abusive? There are some people you shouldn't even know about until you see them at their funeral. Be like, just make sure it's cool, make sure it's real. Go on with your life. You seem to be somebody who is employable. She's not. Okay? So don't worry about it. Get your money. Listen. Connect with a financial planner. Once you get your money, make that money last. And then move on. Don't go back to Dolton until you can sing, "Can't you feel a brand new day, brand new day, brand new day?" I'm telling you, you shouldn't go back until you can sing. This is almost over.
Didn't want to file at first, but it just didn't sit well not to do nothing.
So a court date is still pending for these lawsuits. We did reach out to Mayor Tiffany Henyard as well as the Village of Dolton and the village trustees for comment, but we have not heard back. From Dolton,
Did she say,
Eric Kawash, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
call my phone? Call my phone. Hold on, let me turn this ad off. Call my phone. Well, they did. They called your phone. And you didn't answer. What's new? Hold on, I'm trying to hit the pause button. There we go. Let's go into the article. It comes out of Dolton, Illinois, WLS. 3 people are suing Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard after they said they were wrongfully fired. All of them said they were terminated for refusing to do political work for Henyard. Now, according to the Shackman decrees, which I posted on the community tab of this channel, the Shackman decrees are not law, but they did bring into the legal forefront the unethical behavior behind hiring and firing based on political alignment. I would recommend that you take a look at those Shackman decrees. It was recommended that the Village of Dolton trustees look into them by one of the citizens, so I did. And they may be some things that you can write some ordinances around to protect the hiring and firing in the village. To continue, quote, "The way she treated me and other people was wrong," said Samisha Williams, former director of building permits and licenses. Williams, former human resources manager for Thornton Township, Sandra, and former Dolton Public Works Department administrative assistant Karen Johnson have all filed lawsuits. There's something wrong with this paragraph. I need you guys to go back and look at this. These 3 cases are all based, and I mean by you guys, I mean the editors. Y'all, there's something wrong with this paragraph. Williams, former human resources manager for Thornton Township, Sandra, and former Dolton Public Works Department administrative assistant Karen Johnson have all filed lawsuits. I need you guys to go back and look at that, okay? Because that shouldn't be. These 3 cases are all based on my lawyer's receptionist or whatever she is emailed me yesterday and misspelled my name, and it pissed me fucking off. God, competence is everything. These 3 cases are all based around the same premise. These are wrongful termination at the hands of Mayor Henyard and her administrations, said attorney Matthew Custardo. Well, okay, gotcha. These 3 cases are all based around the same premise. These are wrongful terminations at the hands of Mayor Henyard and her administrations, said attorney Matthew Costado. Now, we saw Dr. Nikita Nietzsche Cloud say that she had a conversation with Keith Freeman. I think she said this on Anton Daniel's Morning Millionaire show. Excuse me. Excuse me. I need some Pellegrino. Hold on. Okay, we saw her say, let me get my throat chakra together, that he wanted to fire the communications manager. Why? Because he was way too competent and he needed a fall guy for all these communication glitches he was planning, like the mic's not working, the Zoom glitching, the stream not loading, stuff like that. The communications manager was actually a college professor, and he was extremely competent at what he was doing. And he was checking Keith on the things he wanted to do because many of those things were illegal. When you are recording a legal meeting, you don't interrupt. You don't mess with the technology that allows that transmission to go through because that's illegal. It's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So Keith Freeman wanted to get rid of that guy. And Dr. Nikita Cloud was basically you can't. So what Keith Freeman did was he brought in somebody else who was incompetent to be over the communications department. And during some time, Keith Freeman had wanted to have Dr. Nikita Cloud write that person up for a glitch that he knew the person wasn't competent enough to overcome. He put somebody over communications who didn't even know how to run Zoom. So he was going to make that person a fall guy. He was going to write them up until he wrote them out. Okay? So we know that this whole hiring, firing thing at the hand of Mayor Henyard and her administrations is real. What was supposed to go there? All 3 former employees said they were fired at some point near the end of 2022. Now, this is kind of a transcript of what we just watched in the video, but I want to read it again because on my end, I couldn't hear it very clearly. Williams said, I think that name is so pretty, Samisha. Williams said the workplace environment worsened about a year before that, 2021, because Mayor Henyard became mayor in May of 2021, starting with the mayor asking her to do things that were unethical. Samisha said, withholding building permits and business licenses to people that didn't donate to her campaign or just people she didn't like in general, Williams said. That's why sometimes it's not a good idea to register to vote where you live, but you have to. Sometimes it's a good idea to register to vote somewhere else and never mind. Williams said she continued to raise concerns about these requests with the mayor, but was later moved to the water department before eventually being fired. She says, I was the only person at the time in the department who knew how to process business licenses, but they moved me to the water department anyway. So now there was a gridlock, a moratorium on business licenses by default. Another complaint in the lawsuit on behalf of Johnson. Who is Johnson? Okay, that was the name they mentioned earlier in that poorly written paragraph. Karen Johnson. That was that name. Okay. I need you guys to get this together because it's not flowing right. But I'll help you out. Another complaint in the lawsuit on behalf of Karen Johnson claims that she was intentionally treated differently from other similarly situated employees, and there was no rational basis for the difference in treatment. The lawsuit also states Henyard restricted certain village and or township employees' access to village and or township buildings, which is illegal. Those are public buildings. But I believe we're talking about the assessor in that sense, as well as we saw earlier, the story that Tommy G released included a story from the maintenance manager of Thornton Township who was locked out of the building and told he had to go see Keith Freeman for his keys. Excuse me. The Dolton trustees have been locked out of the village of Dolton building as of right now. And their attorney, Attorney Bert Olison, has encouraged them not to get the locks changed yet, just to stop conflict for unnecessary conflict, to move with strategy and pick their battles. So, one of the former employees is hoping. I'm sorry. Let me go to this part because it's very important. We did a mock trial to practice muting the trustees because she didn't want the trustees to have a voice. And what she said, Samisha Williams said, we did a mock trial to practice muting the trustees. I didn't see that when I saw the video we watched earlier. I told you I couldn't hear it very clearly. I just heard her say mock trial. So I expounded on that. But they did a mock trial because we've looked at on this show, on the breakdown show, we've gone back and looked at the videos where the Dolton trustees were being muted during their Zoom meetings. And she was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And Keith Freeman came on and was like, oh, make sure you mute yourself so we don't have any interruption. But Zoom is the kind of platform that has the bandwidth that can handle multiple speakers at once without crashing or glitching. And then later on, she said, oh, we said we would mute you because, we're trying to clear up the communication. And then during the actual in-person meetings, you see mics glitching. You see citizens' addresses getting fucked up because the mics aren't working. You see in the most recent meeting on March 4th, 2024, Trustee Tammy Brown we could see it on YouTube because at first there was no sound. When I posted the link to the actual Village of Dolton meeting in my community tab, I said, surprise, ? No sound, period, and posted the link to the meeting. Okay, there was no sound. Then all of a sudden, in some of those meetings, all of a sudden there's sound when the right person gets up to speak to applaud Tiffany Henyard. But then all of a sudden there was sound in this meeting. And we also hear Trustee Tammy Brown say, excuse me. She has to interrupt the meeting and say, excuse me. There is still no sound to our residents who are watching online. And Tiffany Henyard doesn't ask anybody what's going on. Is there sound? She says, yes, they can. They can hear because she knows. Just like in that first meeting when there was an issue with the sound and Clerk Key was unable to be heard. She never said, hey guys, what's going on with Clerk Key? You could hear in the background, Dr. Nikita Cloud, I believe it was, say, you muted all the mics. You muted all the trustees. And you hear Keith Freeman in the background. They say, Clerk Key. They know exactly who it is. So you see this woman now confirming all of the things that we've seen and talked about and broken down. Go back and look at those videos where we broke down those meetings second by second, and we're able to see that she was manipulating the audio. Even when Andrew Holmes speaks, when they would do their Zoom meetings, Andrew Holmes would echo. And then Tiffany Henyard would do something to her device and he would stop echoing. Because she had him in two different tabs open at the same time because they had their own Zoom happening at the same time. So what Tamisha Williams says is very important here. And that's why I wanted to come down and read the article so I could get to the part, so I could get to this part. We did a mock trial to practice muting the trustees because she didn't want the trustees to have a voice. I had to screenshot that. Hold on. We did a mock trial to practice muting the trustees because she didn't want the trustees to have a voice. In her words, which I've heard Dr. Nikita Cloud mention this as well, she was at war with the trustees. Dr. Nikita Cloud said that when she and Tiffany Henyard met with Trustee Tammy Brown and Trustee Brittany Norwood about turning over the receipts, they met and had dinner on a Saturday evening. And when they left, Tiffany Henyard was like, oh, yeah, we're going to turn over the receipts, no problem. When they got to the parking lot, Tiffany Henyard said to Dr. Nikita Cloud, don't you give them shit. We are at war. Man, I remember once my mama acted out in my house, so I made her go stay at a hotel because she was being disrespectful in my house. So I made her go stay at a hotel. And the next day, when it was time for her to catch her flight out, she called me. I was going to take her to the airport because that's the least I could do. And I told her, she was like, I want to make it right. You my daughter. And I was like, okay, well, then let's go see my counselor. So I scheduled an emergency session with my counselor. And we went and talked to my counselor. Shout outs to her. And my mama, I hired her when I was going through my divorce to kind of help me facilitate the emotions that come with leaving someone who's no good for you and dealing with society who doesn't understand. And so in that meeting, this woman already knew a lot about my relationship with my mother from our counseling sessions. When I tell you my mama put on the works, I don't understand what's wrong. I'm so sorry for everything. I just want us to have a beautiful relationship. I just want us to be mother and daughter. Oh, I love you. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. When I tell you, we ended that session and I hadn't even paid the bill. We were walking down the hall back to the receptionist's office to the lobby. And we hadn't even closed, the door hadn't even clicked behind our juicy fat asses. And my mother said, don't you ever waste my time with no mess like this again. Don't you ever waste my time with no mess like this again. And I knew who the fuck I was dealing with, and we went and saw Christmas lights. I know these people. I'm familiar, with these people. We've heard Dr. Nikita Cloud, I think she told Anton Daniels that woman, Tiffany Henyard, who I won't call mayor until she calls herself mayor, on her On the Run podcast. I said it right. I said it right the first time. Shit. Didn't know I did, but Freudian is a motherfucker. Google him, Tiffany Henyard. Google Freudian. Just guess how to spell it and then go from there. We saw her tell Anton Daniels that Tiffany Henyard left that meeting and said, don't give them shit because we are at war. Now, I don't know if Tamisha Williams and Nikita Cloud got together before this conversation, but they happen to use the same words. Just like when Tangenique Audronique Miller speaks, she happens to say the same things that Tiffany Henyard says. I'm going to say it again. We did a mock trial to practice muting the trustees because she didn't want the trustees to have a voice, Williams said. In her words, she was at war with the trustees. What happened to all the kumbaya and come together and let's do this right? She started this war, though, with her dishonesty, saying she was going to pay for her inauguration and slipping the bills to the village. Knowing there was a $5,000 cap on her spending, but having invoices that were just under $5,000, but more than one. So she was spending more than $5,000 without board approval. She did that. These were her first few meetings, June and July, saying that she was going to get her high school to pay $5,000 toward the fireworks, but never actually following that up. And then when the $5,000 didn't come through, saying the high school bailed on her. When they said in the first place they weren't going to do it, she said, I went back and watched the meetings. She said she was going to get them to do it. Just like she was going to get Jason House to sign those checks. But they did not give her $5,000 for those fireworks. So she threw it back on the village and lied on her high school. Let's continue. One of the former employees is hoping to get her job back from the lawsuit, while the other two are just hoping to move forward. I gave my piece on that. As they say, this has caused them emotional and financial damages. Samisha Williams says, I didn't want to file at first, but it didn't sit right with me to do nothing, said Williams. It is easier. People don't understand. It's easier to do nothing. It's easier to do nothing and wait for God to fix it. But God ain't. You are. You are God. You are God. Let's establish this. Okay. Citizens of the village of Dolton, let me let you know. In 1865, the Declaration went into effect that said you are free from slavery. You no longer have to work involuntarily, voluntarily. Okay? Now, even before that, like millions of years before that, it was declared that you are a sovereign human being. You are God. Your will stands. There is no fantastic force in the atmosphere making things happen for you. You're going to have to be the one to file the documents, get in touch with the state's attorney, get the body cam footages, file the complaints, hire the attorneys, pay for it. Use your tax return money to buy an attorney. How about that? You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to be the God you're expecting to save you, Brittany Norwood. You are going to have to be the God that saves you. You're going to have to be the God who is with you, Trustee Tammy Brown. Okay? You're going to have to do it. You are, not anybody else. There is no God that is going to save you. You have waited this long. It took your city over 100 years just to have a black female mayor. And you waiting on God? A court date is still being decided for the lawsuits. Henyard, who is also Thornton Township supervisor, is embroiled in a corruption scandal and has been accused of using village money for personal reasons. She has denied those allegations. What's crazy is the first time she said that on Roland Martin, she said it right. He said, you've been accused of being crazy and deranged and having this foundation. She said, I'm not crazy. I'm not deranged. I don't know nothing about that foundation. Those are false allegations. And then later on, she went on to say allegations. She talks that bad. Take that mock trial time and learn how to talk, stupid. Now, ABC7 has reached out to the Village of Dolton, Henyard's office, and the village trustees for comment, and has not yet heard back. I would definitely recommend that when these things come to the Village of Trustees, excuse me, that you guys assign a spokesperson and respond. I'm just saying. Might be a good idea. Anyway, it said reporter correction or two. That whole goddamn paragraph with 1 comma and no sentences, that's something that needs to be corrected in this particular paragraph. I'm not going to go to the work of reporting it because you have editors. Their job is to go in and look at this, scrub them down, as Stan Brown said. This should have gone through editing 2 or 3 or 4 times before it hit the wire, but apparently the editor at 3 o'clock in the afternoon was doing something else. So anyway, that's all I got. Ain't got no more. I holla.